I wrote this thing and I'm going to read it. That's the only preface I'm going to give you. It's coming up on Father's Day, so I'm going to tell a story. Before I tell it, I'll address the fact that some of you will read it only to find holes or a disagreement. Your opinions may not be mine, and that's fine. I don't expect them to be, I just intend to share mine here today. I'll start with my name. The awful woman who birthed me gave Harold Hudgens a choice between a few names. He picked Kelsey. Lots of folks would wonder why a guy from rural South Carolina would pick that name for a boy. Well, it's a name from the Andy Griffith Show. If you've never watched the Andy Griffith Show, I suggest you watch it for more reasons we'll get into later. But there was a character named Ernest T. Bass who, when asked what's at the edge of Mayberry, he responded, "Old Man Kelsey's woods." They asked him more geographical questions to which he gave answers, Old Man Kelsey's Creek or Old Man Kelsey's Ocean. It was and still is my dad's favorite show. Some of the biggest laughs I remember getting from him as a kid was from quoting it or doing impressions of Otis riding a cow into town thinking it was a horse. I've always tried to make people laugh, and my dad will verify that the first thing I ever wanted to be when I grew up was a comedian. Him laughing at my jokes and impressions were probably what sparked that love for comedy that I still have today. The reason I bring this up is because that all spouted from the Andy Griffith Show. For those not aware, in the show, Andy was a sheriff in a small North Carolina town. He was also a single father, as was my dad for a time. He also didn't carry a gun. He would talk to the people and reason with them. Episode after episode, he would get called on people for shooting at each other and even got shot at a few times. He always marched right up to those people, got to the bottom of the issue, and talked them through it. He didn't carry a gun because he wanted them to know that they weren't in any mortal danger. Andy also had one deputy, Barney. Barney carried a gun, but it wasn't loaded, and he only kept one bullet in his shirt pocket. I watched the show a bunch and don't remember that bullet making it to the gun more than a few times. I find myself thinking back on the power of that sentiment. An unarmed police force in a town that had almost zero crime. Now, before you stop reading and go thinking that I'm about to suggest that cops shouldn't carry guns, I'll tell you that's not my end game. I know many officers, and a couple I've known my entire life. I know these men to be great men, and if all officers were just like these men, we wouldn't have the issues with police brutality we have in this country right now. As it stands, we do have a problem. Andy had a knack for getting to the root of the problem without creating fear or confusion. I can't help but think that he did so by ensuring those that he was called on that they were safe and that their lives were in no danger. I like the thought of a badass sheriff that doesn't need to carry a gun, but I understand the world is a different place today than it was back then, and it's not possible for officers to go unarmed anymore. What is possible is keeping your wits about you when tensions are high. When a drunk man grabs a taser and points it at an officer, he should be tased, not shot. The man's vehicle was there, his ID had been checked, the officers knew his name, and he had already taken a breathalyzer. It couldn't have been hard to prosecute him for what he had done, had he stolen the officer's taser and ran. I know now some of you, if you've made it this far, are rolling your eyes and thinking something like, well, that's what you get when you point a weapon at an officer. If that's what you think, I appreciate you reading this far, but unfortunately your mind isn't going to be changed by anything I'm writing here, and I permit you to stop now. If you're still with me here, I invite you to go watch these videos again and plug in your father, brother, sister, uncle, grandfather, cousin, mother, grandmother, or any family member. No one in our families are perfect. Some of them have even had criminal pasts and maybe haven't been upstanding citizens in their community. I implore you to think of what your opinion would be if it were them on the ground instead of George Floyd, Rayshard Brooks, Breonna Taylor, or any others who have been murdered by men who were just doing their jobs. I mentioned a few officers that I know personally. None of them have ever been in a mix-up that has ended like these situations. And knowing them, they never will. They will hold those around them accountable for what they see that doesn't look right. It's time for the rest of them to toe the mark and walk the line. Andy didn't need a gun because his mind was more powerful. I beg of you, please use your mind when approaching these subjects and take into account that you would have a very different opinion if it were someone that you loved. I love you all. Black Lives Matter. Onward. That's all. Love you. Mean it.